Hello everyone and welcome to Doom Bible. Today's video is special. We are going to tackle one of the most important questions in the Doom franchise. How did the classic Doomguy, after his battle with the sister of the mother demon, ended up on Argent D'Nur and become the Doomslayer? Let's not waste your time and break it step by step. Did Doomguy came from the 7th dimensional Earth? No. That idea was scrapped and never made it into the final version of the game, and there is a good reason for that. Because the Doomslayer is meant to defend his Earth, his people, not some alternate version of Earth. Samuel Hayden and the others make this clear when they refer to Earth's humans as
your people, your people, your people.
Your whole world, your planet.
That wouldn't make sense if the Slayer wasn't originally from the same Earth. Plus, nowhere in any official codex stated that multiple Earths exist. So this means Doomguy came from another universe, as suggested by our dear friend Horde Mode Gaming. No. If there were a separate universe with another Earth, that would mean another Doomguy as well. But Doomguy arriving on Argent D'Nur as an outlander only means one thing: he is from the same universe. And again, the idea of a separate Earth contradicts how everyone refers to humans on Earth as his people. But wasn't classic Doom supposed to take place in the future? How did Doomguy suddenly ended up in the medieval era of Argent D'Nur? At first glance, this seems confusing, but there is only one logical explanation left. Doomguy was thrown back in time. That's it. But wouldn't this create a time paradox? Wouldn't changing the past alters the future and creates another universe? Normally, yes, but in Doom's case, the Slayer traveled back in time, yet his future remained unchanged. His family will still end up being killed by the demons in the first invasion on Earth. Wait, what? First invasion? Does that mean Earth was invaded twice? Exactly. The first invasion happened sometime between the early 2000s and 2020, while the second invasion occurred in 2151. But the codex states that Doom Eternal's invasion was the first. Are you sure about that? The codex never says it was the first ever invasion. It just doesn't mention a previous one. However, there are strong hints that Earth had already faced a demonic catastrophe before the year 2020. The Doom 2016's codex mentions that Earth was in an energy crisis. Not only that, but humans in Doom 2016 already had a deep knowledge on hell and demons. This suggests that a prior invasion occurred before Samuel Hayden's arrival on Earth. I will be debunking all the so-called evidence that claims Doomguy is from a separate Earth, but in a future video. For now, let's focus on the big picture. All this chaos started with one terrible demon, the sister of the mother demon, the main villain of classic Doom. She was the one who set everything in motion. She created this madness when she threw the Doomguy onto the path of perpetual torment and sent him from the far future of Earth back into the past, where the Dark Lord was waiting for him, preparing him for his ultimate awakening with the Divinity Machine. But before we dive into that, let's quickly recap the events of the previous chapter. Feel free to skip the 3 minutes recap if you already know the story. Let's get started. In the previous chapter, we explored the complex relationship between the Makers and the Argenta people, highlighting a pivotal event that will change the course of history forever. We learned that after his defeat at the hands of the Father and the Makers, and following the Father's mysterious disappearance from Urdak, Davoth was left in despair, with no way to restore himself or turn the tide against the Makers. He resolved to exact his revenge at any cost, determined to defy fate. Davoth was willing to sacrifice himself and his remaining people in Imora to achieve his ultimate revenge against the Makers. However, the codex does not fully explain how Davoth would eventually create the Doomslayer. To bridge this gap, we introduced a theory that not only aligns with Davoth's objectives, but also connects the classic Doom lore with the current storyline, as detailed in the first chapter. One of Davoth's many attempts to create an immortal being resulted in Project Eternal. This project aimed to replicate his own immortality. The experiment failed to forge a different being with the same Davoth's immortality. But after billions of years of defeat and humiliation, Davoth reconsidered Project Eternal as a means of revenge. He realized that to create his identical counterpart, the Destroyer, he needed a worthy bloodline, one strong enough to birth his reincarnation. At this point of time, few million years BC, the Khan of the Makers approached King Rohan on his throne with a proposal, the construction of the divinity machine. This device, she thought, would serve as a means to detect the prophesied destroyer. However, in reality, this machine would contain a shard of Davoth's own body. The moment his destined reincarnation made contact with it, his latent divine power would awaken, granting him strength equal to Davoth himself. To complete this plan, 3 key steps were required. First, influence the Khan Maker. Convince her to build the divinity machine under the guise of detecting the destroyer. Second, find the worthy bloodline. Identify a lineage strong enough to produce Davoth's reincarnation. Third, bring the destroyer to the divinity machine. Ensure making contact with the shard and awakens his power. Additionally, an extra step might be needed, either to protect the destroyer in his early years or to ensure his arrival at the divinity machine. A devoted servant of the Dark Lord would need to infiltrate Argent D'Nur. However, with hell being sealed, opening direct portals from there were impossible. Instead, one of the Dark Lord's loyalists stationed somewhere in the vast galaxy had to manually travel to Argent D'Nur, a journey that will take many years. By the time this servant finally reached Argent D'Nur, King Novik ruled over Sentinel Prime. Yet despite all the time that had passed, the search for the worthy bloodline had yielded no results. The servant waited in secrecy for further instructions. At this point, the Dark Lord's loyalists had yet to locate a lineage capable of birthing his perfect reincarnation, but time was running out. If he failed to act quickly, he risked losing his influence over the Khan Maker. To accelerate the process, Davoth needed to resort to unconventional methods. Among the Dark Lord's most powerful demons, one stood out: the Sister Resurrector, a high-ranking entity with a unique ability that could turn the tide. She was the sister of the Mother Demon, the final boss of Doom 64. Though she wasn't necessarily the strongest demon like the Icon of Sin, she possessed something far more valuable for this mission. But what exactly made the Sister Resurrector so vital to the Dark Lord's plan? Let's find out. In our theory, the Sister Resurrector possessed a unique and immensely powerful ability. Through dark magic, she could create a timeline gate within her domain in Hell. By passing through this gate, she could freeze the current timeline and create an alternate timeline, where she could exist until a specific point in time before returning to the original timeline. Her ability functioned much like a save and load system in a game. She could witness events in the distant future and then return with that knowledge to alter the present. However, this power had strict limitations. Any injuries she sustained in the alternate timeline would persist when she returned. Also, she can bring anyone with her to the alternate timeline, but only she can return back to the original timeline. Anyone else who accompanied her will perish when the alternate timeline collapsed. Realizing the potential of this ability, the Dark Lord ordered the Sister Resurrector to use it to oversee the future and locate the bloodline capable of birthing the Destroyer. Following his command, she opened the timeline gate, stepping into the alternate reality where she remained for over 2 million years. During this time, she scoured the universe for the perfect lineage. Eventually, she discovered the descendants of B.J. Blazkowicz on Earth in the 20th century, the only bloodline strong enough to create the Destroyer. Upon returning to the original timeline, she delivered the news to the Dark Lord about the far future. Earth was thriving under the will of the Father, while Mars and the city of Hebeth were now uninhabitable. And most importantly, the Destroyer's bloodline would be found on Earth, and he would be born around year 1990. This was troubling news for the Dark Lord. The longer he waited, the greater the risk of losing his influence over the Khan Maker. If she abandoned his cause, awakening the Destroyer through the divinity machine would be impossible. For the Dark Lord, waiting until the year 1990 was not an option. How can he accelerate the incoming of the Destroyer? To do this, he commanded the Sister Resurrector to make the ultimate sacrifice. Instead of returning alone from the alternate timeline, she would bring the Destroyer back with her. However, Since only one being could return from the alternate timeline, this meant her death was inevitable. Without hesitation, she accepted. Her mission now was set: to bring the destroyer from the far future to the era of King Novak. However, there was one major obstacle. The timeline gate was located in Hell. In order for the destroyer to return to the original timeline, she needed to lure him to the gate's location. Sensing the high stakes of this mission, the Mother Demon, the Sister Resurrector's own sibling, volunteered to accompany her. On the surface, she appeared to be offering support, but in reality, she had a far more sinister motive. She intended to kill the destroyer. Not all the Dark Lord's minions trusted the sisters. Some have questioned their true intentions. What if their lust for destruction overpowered their duty? What if instead of bringing the destroyer back, they killed him outright? The Dark Lord acknowledged this risk. He knew they would likely attempt to eliminate the destroyer for their own twisted pleasure. But he also believed that if the destroyer was truly worthy, if he was truly his equal, then even without his awakened power, he would be strong enough to stand against them. And so, the Sister Resurrector and the Mother Demon set their plan into motion. If everything went according to plan, then the Mother Demon and the Sister Resurrector would go through the gate and vanish, their lives sacrificed to bring forth the destroyer. In their place, he would suddenly appear before the timeline gate, deep within the sealed realm of Hell. But there was a major obstacle. Hell was sealed away from all existence. How would they transport the destroyer to Argent D'Nur? As we know, no portals can be opened from Hell, thanks to the Maker's seal. However, a portal could be opened to Hell, but only from outside. This meant that someone had to open a two-way portal from Argent D'Nur to extract the destroyer. Luckily, the Dark Lord had already placed one of his servants on Argent D'Nur. This hidden agent, living undetected among the Argenta, would have had access to the Maker's advanced portal technology. With this, he could prepare a two-way secret portal that would allow the destroyer to cross into Argent D'Nur. With the divinity machine now built and King Novak ruling, the Sister Resurrector activated her power for the final time. She and the Mother of Demons stepped through the timeline gate, entering the alternate timeline. And then, it happened. The destroyer appeared before them. For those who witnessed it in the original timeline, it was a fraction of a second. But for the sisters, however, it was nearly a 2 million years journey. The destroyer appeared with his body being bloodied, covered in deep wounds, and on a verge of death. The Dark Lord did not expect this. For a moment, he was in a disbelief. Then likely, he laughed his excitement, barely contained. The Sister Resurrector had succeeded. She and the Mother Demon had perished. Their very existence sacrificed to substitute themselves with the destroyer. A being meant to bring ultimate ruin. Now, the final phase of the Dark Lord's plan could begin. The Dark Lord gave a huge thanks to the Sister Resurrector as she succeeded in the future to teleport the destroyer to the current timeline, accelerating his plan. But there was no time to waste. The Dark Lord immediately commanded his hidden servant in Argent D'Nur to activate the portal to Hell. Once opened, his minions in Hell seized the barely conscious destroyer and threw him into the portal, sending him to Argent D'Nur. But as expected, the moment the destroyer arrived to the original timeline, he immediately attacked the Dark Lord's minions with relentless fury. Though heavily injured, he fought like a cornered beast, nearly tearing through his captors. The Dark Lord minions barely succeeded in throwing him to the portal to Argent D'Nur. Moments later, he crashed into the valley outside the castle walls. A broken warrior, lost in time. It was there, in the wilderness beyond the stronghold, that the Night Sentinels found him, unaware of the truth behind his arrival. They took him in. This was the beginning of the legend of the Doomslayer. Before closing this chapter, let's briefly explore how the Sister Resurrector succeeded in bringing the destroyer into the original timeline. By the year 1911, long before 20th century, the Argenta abandoned the solar system after Mars became uninhabitable. Meanwhile, The Dark Lord's secret servants were already operating in the shadows of Earth, searching for a bloodline strong enough to give birth to the Destroyer. Their search led them to B.J. Blazkowicz, a warrior of unmatched strength and resilience. His bloodline, tested across generations, proved to be the only key. Following Davoth's command, they cast their dark magic in the name of the almighty Davoth upon Blazkowicz, ensuring that his descendants would give birth to the one destined to become the Destroyer. By the year 1990, their patience was rewarded. The Destroyer was finally born. No official source materials provide details about this period in Doom's future, but we do know a few key things. The United States government in the Doom universe was corrupt and authoritarian, not a true democracy. Earth had advanced technology, particularly through the UAC, Union Aerospace Corporation, a massive organization conducting cutting-edge research in space travel. For the Mother Demon and the Sister Resurrector, this provided the perfect opportunity to ensure the Destroyer's arrival to Hell, and eventually his return to the original timeline. Since no portal could be opened from Hell to Earth, the Mother Demon and her sister needed to build the necessary technology on Earth to send the Destroyer to Hell. They infiltrated and influenced the UAC, directing them to focus on teleportation technology. Over the next decades, the UAC advanced its research, planning teleportation experiments on Phobos and Deimos. By the year 2010. The Mother Demon and the sister watched closely, waiting for the right moment. By the year 2010, the Doomguy, now an experienced warrior, had a wife and child under a new name and identity, serving in the military. Then, fate played into the demon's hands. One day, the Doomguy was given a terrible order to fire upon innocent civilians. He refused, and when his superior insisted, he responded with violence, striking down his commanding officer. The Mother Demon and her followers saw their chance. They manipulated military leaders, ensuring that the Doomguy would be exiled from Earth. His punishment? Forced labor under the UAC on Deimos, where the teleportation project was about to reach its final stage. The UAC's teleportation experiments between Phobos and Deimos began successfully, transferring objects between the two moons. However, the Mother Demon servants, hidden within the project, tampered with the technology, corrupting it for their own purpose. When the final test began, the portal didn't just connect Phobos and Deimos, it ripped open a two-way portal to Hell itself. The result was catastrophic. Deimos was consumed by Hell. Every UAC scientist, engineer, and soldier was slaughtered, except for one man, the Doomguy. He had no idea about what happened. He had no part in the UAC's madness. But now, he had no choice. He was at war with Hell. The Mother Demon and her sister succeeded in bringing the Doomguy to Hell. But they had underestimated one thing. Even without awakening his full power, the Doomguy was unstoppable. He tore through hordes of demons, slaughtering them left and right, his sheer willpower and rage carrying him forward. The demons tried to lure him to the gate where the Sister Resurrector waited to complete her mission, but they failed. He fought his way through Hell, destroying everything in his path, until he finally confronted and slaughtered the Cyber Demon, and then the Spider Mastermind as well. After his victory, the Doomguy stumbled upon a teleportation device, likely a missing device from the UAC's experiments. It was probably a device originally intended to transport humans between Deimos and Earth, but when Deimos was absorbed into Hell, it was taken along with it. The Doomguy returned to Earth through that portal, but unfortunately, he was not alone. Through the same portal, Hell already unleashed a massive invasion on Earth. It was the first Hell's invasion. The plan had spiraled into chaos. The Mother Demon and the Sister Resurrector failed to lure the Doomguy to the gate's location. Now, he was back on Earth, only to find it in ruins. Hell had launched an all-out strike on Earth, slaughtering most of humanity. The Mother Demon, filled with rage, directed the full might of her invasion toward one place, the Doomguy's hometown. There was no doubt that this war was personal. By the time he returned to Earth, it was too late. His family was dead. It was around year 2010. The Doomguy fought through the chaos, cutting down demonic legions in unrelenting war of vengeance. At this time, the Mother Demon and the Sister Resurrector no longer cared about sending him to the original timeline. Now, they only wanted one thing: his death. As most survivors evacuated Earth, the Doomguy discovered Hell's main stronghold built right in his hometown. The source of the invasion was there, and inside it lay an open gateway to Hell. With nothing left to lose, the Doomguy stepped through. For the second time, he returned to Hell, this time not as a pawn in their schemes, but as their executioner. Inside, he faced one of the Mother Demon's most powerful allies, the unawakened icon of sin. Even in its dormant state, it was an unstoppable force. A towering behemoth meant to crush him before he could reach her, but he won. He shot down the icon of sin. Later, after many days and months of ongoing battles, Doomguy teared through Hell's ranks until he reached the Mother Demon's lair. There, they faced off in one final battle. Despite her immense power, she fell to his wrath. The Doomguy had won, but already made his decision. He would stay in Hell, ensuring no demon would ever return to Earth again. It was tough. The Dark Lord's minions went too far with this plan. The Doomguy will never forgive Hell or the responsible ones for this. He will forever hunt the demons until his death, for they who took the life of his family and beloved people on Earth. But the Sister Resurrector was not finished yet. Burning with the need for revenge, she struck back. She forced the Doomguy out of Hell, hurling him back to Earth, while summoning hordes of demons to destroy him. But again, he fought his way through, carving a path straight back to Hell. She was waiting for him at the gate. The Sister Resurrector knew this was the end game. Their battle was brutal, a clash of titans, each determined to destroy the other. But in the end, she suffered a fatal wound. Knowing she had failed to kill him, she made her final move. With her dying breath, she activated the gate, collapsing the alternate timeline, and in doing so, she finally threw the Doomguy back into the original timeline. By year 2020, the Hell invasion on Earth had ceased. The timeline itself had collapsed. Thanks to the Doomguy, Earth was saved, and yet his name faded into history. And the world moved on, unaware of the warrior who had fought for them. He was now a forgotten hero. In the original timeline, the Doomguy materialized in Hell, surrounded by the Dark Lord's minions. They barely had time to react before they cast him out, throwing him into Argent D'Nur. There he was found by the Night Sentinels, an outlander, a warrior not from their world. The Destroyer had returned, and the real war was about to begin. Comment down below with your theory on how Doomguy was thrown back to Argent D'Nur. Let's have a healthy discussion. Thanks for watching.